Forget gurus. Forget anyone claiming to be an online business expert without going through the challenges of entrepreneurship themselves. The Real Money, Real Business podcast is here to prove the best insights in online business comes from your fellow online business builders. We dig into stories of entrepreneurs selling their business on the Empire Flippers marketplace so that you can learn how they made their business profitable, how they overcame obstacles, and what lessons they learned in their online journey. If you want to take your business and your knowledge to the next level, you've come to the right podcast. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Real Money, Real Business podcast. We record these interviews so potential buyers have more information about the seller and the business to help them make a buying decision further down the road. And just before we dive into today's interview, let me just give a very brief summary of the business today. It is an Amazon Associates and affiliate business created in June 2015 in the health and fitness niche. The average monthly revenue for the business is $4,930, and it makes an average of $3,565 per month in net profit. The assets included in the sale, the domain and all of the site's contents and files, 301 redirects, social media accounts and pages, a trademark, an email list, SOPs, contact details for a freelance VA and writers, article templates, and keyword research spreadsheets. For everyone listening, you can visit empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing 57625 to learn more about the business. Or you can unlock this listing to start your due diligence if you're interested in purchasing the asset today. So that's a very brief overview of the business. Let's hear from the seller. It's a pleasure to welcome you to the show. Andrew, how are you doing?
Very well, Benny. Thanks for having me.
Wonderful. Kickstart us off then. Can you just share with me what your background is in building or running online businesses?
Yeah, so I've been building businesses online for quite a long time. I got started in 2005, and I'm one of the few people that you'll meet who has not had any career that's not affiliate marketing. I started this shortly after I finished high school, and I've been building affiliate sites ever since. I've had obviously a number of sites over the years, and this is one of the current ones.
Wow, okay, that's awesome. So yeah, it definitely sounded like you started off young. Can you share with me briefly then, why did you choose to go down the route of affiliate marketing as like a business model, to sort of learn and pick up the skills for?
Yeah, well, affiliate marketing, I think, has the distinction of being one of probably the easiest online business model to start, where you're building up an asset that has real tangible value. There might be these other ways to make a quick buck on the internet, but in terms of building something that has the potential to generate cash flow and have long-term value as an asset, there isn't one that's easier or simpler, I would say, than affiliate marketing. And so that was the initial motivation. And then it kind of stuck once I got a site that started working and I could see the potential for it, and it was delivering some of the lovely benefits of affiliate marketing. I suppose I got addicted to it. I didn't want to do anything else.
Yeah, for sure. And if you don't mind sharing, how long did it take before you finally landed your golden goose, the project that was actually generating money?
Yeah, well, for better or worse, the very early period was, like for so many people, quite grim. There was just a lot of buying expensive courses online, and I was really young at the time. I still lived with my parents when I bought my first course. I had to borrow mum's credit card. Mum, I want to start this business online. Please lend me this money so I can buy this course and I'll start this online business. It'll be amazing. I'll get rich. And then, of course, it was 2 years later and there was still nothing much to show for it. But fortunately, I don't know, out of stubbornness or something else, I stuck at it. And there was a breakthrough with an affiliate site kind of by about 2006, I think. I had the first site that really showed me the potential of it. And yeah, like I say, after that, I just built one after another.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I'm sure those conversations always go down well when you're like you say, when you're sort of a teenager telling your parents the aspirations of online businesses. Yeah, I'm sure that's palatable, especially when you're holding their credit card as well.
That's right.
But I was going to ask you then, but as you were skilling up and learning about affiliate marketing, you mentioned taking out a course, but was there anyone else who really inspired you when you were building this business in particular, or just throughout your journey, that you think our listeners might find like a useful resource as well?
at that time, at that very early time, the landscape was so much different. And honestly, there isn't any resource from that time whose quality have stayed consistent enough that I would still recommend it now. So all of the good resources for building affiliate marketing businesses now are ones that people listening to this, I think, will have already heard of. There isn't a current one that stands out way above the rest. The information is mostly freely available. And I think that's one way for me to answer that question, is to say that having a success in this, or really any online business, is less about finding the best strategies, finding the perfect information, than it is about just implementing the good ideas really consistently.
Yeah, no, I think that's a solid answer. It's not about striking rich with, one like great idea, but staying consistent and it's like the slow and steady thing, and just slowly churning out good things along the way, right?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. For sure. So with this business in particular then, how did you come up with the idea to start this one? Like, why did you choose the health and fitness niche in particular?
Yeah, well, at the time I started this affiliate site, I wanted to do something that not very many people were doing at that point, which is to sort of take the idea of a standard affiliate site with its product reviews and roundups, but to elevate it in a sense by combining it with the kinds of content that weren't to do with affiliate marketing, to create a site that had a level of trust and authority that it's not possible to build when all you have on the website is product reviews. And so I had this idea for these two kinds of content, which anyone will see when they unlock the listing, when they're viewing this site. There's two kinds of content on this site, and one of them is the affiliate content. It's the standard kind of stuff. And the other one is kind of content that is really authoritative, it's written by industry experts. It builds a lot of credibility for the site, and that content is front and center. So if you go to the site, it's the first thing that you see, and the monetization is kind of sitting behind that. And that was the idea, of course, in 2015 when I started that. Now there are more people doing something similar to this, but at that time there were very few. That was the idea, and fortunately it played out well. The two kinds of content served their purpose, and it was kind of a happy marriage between the two. And yeah, I suppose that's a shortest answer for the idea for putting it together.
That makes sense. I think a lot of affiliate experts preach the same thing about trying to leverage experts in that niche in particular to help you generate the content. I think it's part of the production process as well. It just streamlines it. It just makes it so much easier, because then you're not like spending so much time editing it and fact checking it, but it's more about just checking for sort of grammar and stuff like that, because the person I'm speaking to, they know their stuff. So
Absolutely.
I think using experts is definitely a really smart idea in this case. So makes sense. That gives us a pretty good idea then of the background of the business. All of our sellers and all of our listeners will be wondering, because you've grown it to a really good size so far, why are you choosing to sell the business right now instead of keeping it or growing it?
Yeah, so for me, it's a case of, and I think this is true for so many online business entrepreneurs, we all have a lot of projects going on at any one time. And this is a case where I've got another couple of projects, and I think especially after the pandemic, after the last couple of years, and maybe a refocusing of priorities, where I just came to feel like I had too much on my plate. And this was one that it was possible for me to offload and save a little bit of the time and mental energy to just focus on both a smaller number of projects elsewhere in the business and also just other things outside of work. So that's the motivation.
That makes sense. I think a lot of people, once you start online businesses, I think more often than not, people do have multiple projects ongoing, and like you say, it can reach a head when you don't have the time or the bandwidth to manage all of them at the same time. So
Sure.
For sure. I just want to touch upon the operations side of your business now, if we sort of look under the hood. Mm-hmm. While you were building this business, did you find anything or any sort of strategies that just really worked for you?
Yeah, the primary one we sort of touched on earlier, where there's a few things better for building this kind of site than just the consistency of good quality content publishing on it. Mm-hmm. And there's a temptation when you have a site like this and it's earning well and it's so hands-off that there's a temptation to kind of let it run. And I think a lot of, without publishing more content, without growing or developing it as strongly as you might. And the best thing for any kind of site like this, and the thing that's worked for this site too, is just the consistency of publishing good quality content, and then filling in all the other blanks, like getting the internal linking right, tweaking the good quality, the high performing pieces of content, the most to make small improvements, and just rinsing and repeating that process. The thing about this business is that it's so simple. It's running on such a small number of pieces that just the more of them you have, the bigger that base is, the better the site does. And so, yeah, I think that's the clearest answer there.
Yeah, no, it makes sense with content sites, especially just focusing on quality as well as quantity, but like not rushing that process.
That's right.
Just making sure, like you say, you're building up a sizable foundation. Was there any like software or tools that really helped you like just run the business?
Yeah, we could talk about some of the ones that are just kind of humming along there in the background. I wouldn't put them in the category of being crucially important to making big advances in the revenue of the business or anything like that, but that's things like optimization tools that we use. I can mention a couple of those by name if you like. But actually, now that I think of it, and one more tool for improving the consistency of the high quality content publishing. That's up Surfer SEO. I don't know if the listeners are familiar.
Mm-hmm.
Implementing that and having the writers working in that made a big difference. Just makes it so much easier for you to maintain a standard of publishing without as much input from you, rather than you having to go back to heavily review the content that comes through. If the writers have written it in this platform, it's kind of already set up and they know how to tick the boxes so that when it gets to you, it's basically ready to go live. Yeah. Little things like that. That's not revolutionary. A lot of content publishers use tools like that. And then on the performance side, it's things like we use NitroPack for speed optimization. That made some big improvements. I think we implemented that maybe 2019. That was really helpful. And then there's another plugin that people might be interested in if they don't know already. I'm happy to give them a plug that's called Perf Matters. It's just like a WordPress plugin. I think it's $10 a year for one site. And that added some additional performance benefits on top of even what NitroPack was doing. That's for WordPress sites, of course. But other than that, no, it's in fact, a very low-tech business model, this one. It doesn't rely on big or complex or expensive pieces of software to be able to do well.
Gotcha. So sounds like it's your sort of routine tech stack to help you run a standard content site, really.
For sure.
Mm-hmm. So I've just asked you about what helped you or sort of what worked for you. I guess on the other hand then, was there anything that you tried that didn't really work out?
Yeah, I was thinking about this, and there's one example came to mind that was from the most recent year, actually. And I'll tell you what it is. And I think overall, this is one where a little more time will determine whether this is a thing that really didn't work or a thing that hasn't quite worked yet and will perhaps work a little better in the years to come. So for the listeners who follow SEO closely, Google this year rolled out this product reviews update where they were trying to get better at rewarding high quality product reviews because there are so many low quality product reviews on the internet. And a little bit in advance of this, I had already started working on the site and publishing some more of these particularly high quality product reviews. So this is product reviews written by industry experts for one, and product reviews where people actually got the product at their house and they tested it and took photos of it and wrote in depth about the experience of it and everything else. So shortly in advance of proceeding, the update, I was publishing some content like this on the site. And right after that update rolled out, the site saw a small increase in traffic that seemed to be related to that update. But then for the rest of the year, that content didn't perform quite as well as I'd hoped. And it looks initially like this was one of the things that Google says where they're aiming for a certain compliance. Like they just want better content on the internet. So they put this into the algorithm and then everyone who does SEO listens to what they say and follows suit. And what I mean is that they obviously haven't gotten perfectly good yet at deciding on and understanding what is a really high quality product review and what is not. And so there's a lot of sometimes these product reviews work really well and sometimes they don't. But because that product reviews update is part of the core algorithm now, what SEOs are expecting to see is that in the years to come with future core algorithm updates, that product review content that is really high quality in that way should continue to be rewarded more and more highly. So it could be that in the year to come with additional updates, some of that content that I published takes a bit more of an increase, but it hasn't happened so far. And so that's definitely a thing that I expected to work better than it did initially this year.
Yeah, got you. So kind of sounds like you haven't enjoyed the ROI just yet, but as you said, time will probably tell whether that's been a successful endeavor long term, or if it maybe just wasn't as successful as you hoped.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Let me just pivot over to the actual maintaining of the business right now, then can you just briefly describe what type of work you do to maintain the business on like a day-to-day or even a weekly basis?
Yeah, so the things I mostly do, the first thing is to check stats, and that is not a requirement for running the business. That's more like a bad habit that we all get into. But the things actually required to maintain it, I often go through the best performing articles on the site and look for tweaks or improvements that can be made. So sometimes they're things like improving the title tags of the site to increase the click-through from the search engines. Sometimes that's improving calls to action. I'm a big fan of these small tweaks that can make a big impact, because if you improve a call to action to increase your affiliate click-through rate, or you increase the click-through rate from the search engines, there's an immediate difference. You see the increase in sales straight away. So I focus most of my time on those like high return things. And then there's also just checking the content that comes through from the writers and the publisher. So the VA who publishes the content will tell me that an article is ready to go live. And you don't have to do this, but I do like to give them a scan before they go live, before the publish button gets hit, just to sign off on them. So there's that as well. And those things are the majority of the time spent on this business. There is also a little bit in deciding on the new article topics to send to get content published on. That's one that I've been doing affiliate marketing for a long time, and I almost kind of enjoy that work. It's a little bit fun searching out, doing the keyword research and searching out the opportunities. But a new buyer to the site wouldn't have to do that if they didn't want. There's easy ways to hand that off to somebody else.
Yeah, no, that absolutely makes sense, Andrew. I wanted to ask you then, to follow up, what skills would you say the new owner would need in order to be successful running this business?
Yeah, so there's really two things that I think will be at the top of that list. The first one is the keyword research. I think the better you are at isolating those good keyword opportunities, the easier it all is. But again, that is an easy one to find somebody else to do if you find that boring, or if you're not good at that already. And the second one is copywriting. So when I said that the work that I'm doing is tweaking these call to actions or tweaking the title tags, that's pure copywriting work. That's trying to come up with a more compelling headline. That's testing different headlines, testing different text in that around the affiliate links to see if something will be especially more enticing than something else. And so that skill really pays dividends. So they would be the top two, copywriting and keyword research.
Gotcha. Okay. I just want to talk about your traffic. The majority of traffic is organic, right? So what do you currently do in terms of marketing for the business?
Yeah, well, in terms of active marketing of the business, the answer is almost nothing. And that's kind of the virtue of organic search engine traffic. I mean, it's not literally nothing, because you're getting traffic from the work that you've done, the accumulated work that you've done over a long period of time. So the site has established this high domain rating now, and it's got this good base of authority and trust. And so it keeps getting traffic consistently. And there's nothing that I do month to month that is to keep that traffic going. It's at the point where it's just publishing extra content to the extent that you can, and that's it. This might come in an answer further down, but just as an introduction, one thing that may pay dividends for the new owner of the business is a little additional effort on the link building front. So one thing that happened with this site is that because it has this mechanism built in where it picks up so many great links naturally, a thing that I also didn't prioritize when I've not had more time for the business is the link building. I got too used to having these great links come in organically, and so there's been very, very little work on the link building side of things. But I think at the point the site is at now, it would benefit from even a small amount of marketing work on that front.
Gotcha. That's actually a great segue into my next question, because I was going to ask you, if you were to stay with the business, how would you try to grow it? So, I mean, you've just mentioned there, link building. There's definitely room, like an opportunity there. What are the other opportunities for growth?
Yeah, well, to that question, the link building is actually a little further down the list. So at the top of that list, the first thing that has to be done, and I wanted to do this myself before the site ever went for sale, but I didn't get the chance to because of how strange this year has been. But the site has a decent proportion of its traffic that is to articles that are currently unmonetized, completely unmonetized. And so the first thing that somebody will do is to start running display ads on this content. It's not affiliate content, so it doesn't monetize with affiliate links, although thinking about it now, some of the articles may actually generate revenue with affiliate links, but just dropping display ads onto this content will immediately increase the revenue of the site. So that's step one. Then the second step, when I was talking before about the content that I published this year that didn't go as well as I wanted it to, in the previous year, it should be reflected in the traffic stats on the listing. There's a period towards the end of the year where traffic was increasing quite nicely, and that was publishing a different kind of content that I can give the buyer all the details on. But I would revert to publishing more of that kind of content next than the product reviews, these particular kind of product reviews. And I think that would pay dividends, particularly in some new segments of the site that are relatively unexplored and that have a lot of opportunities for affiliate content. There are these categories on the site that are just new. I've only started them relatively recently, but they have lots of opportunities where sites with lower domain ratings than this one are currently there getting traffic with content like no better than what I would publish if I was doing it. So some new content in new categories in these new areas would definitely be another growth strategy. And then, there's quite a long list, but I think those two things are at the top, and then the link building side would definitely be helpful as well.
That's awesome. Definitely sounds like there's lots of avenues for growth. What would you say are some of the biggest risks with this business that a buyer should be aware of?
Yeah, so I think the best thing about affiliate marketing business is also the worst thing about it, and that is how easy it is to start and to run. And so the risk for a buyer of this or any affiliate site is just the competition from other new sites coming in, and particularly it's new sites coming in, but that's less of a risk for a site that's as established as this one is, and more just other content publishers that aren't doing any of this kind of content already starting to publish this kind of content. So just new people coming in and coming upon the keywords that you found, the topics that you found that are doing well and starting to compete against you, that can slowly chip away at traffic. But overall, as long as you're publishing consistently, you notice this kind of churn where an article is doing, it has a period, sometimes it's a year, sometimes it's 3 or 4 years. Like there are great articles on this site that have been earning consistently for, I think the oldest one is 5 years. It still makes sales constantly, and it's 5 years old now. But these articles have a window of time where they're performing at their best, and over time they can slowly wane. But in the interim, the publishing of new content overcomes the churn of any content that starts to lose rankings. So keeping on top of that is the way to mitigate that risk.
Gotcha. That makes sense. I've just got a last few questions then to round off the interview. How much support are you offering buyers?
Yeah, so I was happy to do the option for 30-day email support with the new buyer.
Great. And are you willing to commit to a non-compete?
Yes.
And are you open to something like an earn-out, like seller financing?
No, that's not the kind of option I'm looking for this site, just a cash deal on this one.
Gotcha. Well, last question from me then. If you put yourself in the shoes of a buyer, why would you say that this is a business worth buying?
Yeah, so the hardest thing about any affiliate site or any publishing business like this is the beginning. It's getting it established. And I think the best thing that this site has in its favor is the fact that it's kind of in front of some of the more important trends in search in the last year. And I'll give you a couple of examples. So the updates that were made in Google this year were, for one, the product reviews update. And like I said, this site has a high proportion of its content now that is these especially high quality product reviews that meet the standard that Google is trying to adjust for in the algorithm. So assuming that continues, which it is part of the core algorithm now, it must continue, this site is ahead of that movement. The second one is the core Web Vitals update that happened further in the year. Anyone who looks at this site and after unlocking the listing and measures the core Web Vitals will see that they're really strong. That's something that we did some work on this year. Like I paid a developer to help improve the site on that score. So the Web Vitals are really strong, and not only really strong, but they're stronger than a lot of the sites that this site bumps up against in the search engines that are bigger and further advanced. A lot of those sites have quite bad core Web Vitals as it happens. So it's ahead on that. And the third one that it's ahead on was an older one, and that's the whole expertise, authority, and trust thing, right? So we know that Google is trying to improve its ability to rank content based on the expertise, authority, and trust, right? Like both externally, who links to you, like what are the quality of the publications that cite you and link to you, and internally in terms of who's publishing content on your site, how recognizable are they and how credible are they in their fields. And that's something that I've been working on this site from before. It was kind of baked in from the beginning on this site, but I've continued developing that on the site up until this point. So when anyone sees it, they will notice the difference between it and more common kind of affiliate site that you come across. So in terms of having the kind of potential to do well in the years to come in the search engines, it has those three big things in place, and it has this base, this high domain rating, that should you continue to build on it, there is every reason to think that this site will perform particularly well.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's great. I mean, is there anything you'd like to add that you think I might have missed?
No, I think we covered a lot of ground there in that short time. That was great.
Well, that's fantastic. Andrew, thank you so much for joining me on today's interview. Looking forward to seeing your business sell in the very near future.
Sure. Thanks, Vinny. This is fun.
All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. To learn more and see if this listing has already been sold, head over to empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing number 57625. If you're watching this on YouTube, click the link in the description to go straight to the listing. And once you've unlocked the listing, you'll be given everything you need to know about the business. So until next time, enjoy your digital journey.